Let's get straight into what it is like to actually be an immigrant here. What are some of the things that are making us immigrants to leave the country? Is it even worth moving here in the first place? All the points in this video, either for or against Canada, it's not to say that one is really better than the other, okay? This might differ from other people's experiences. Remember, as you watch along, no country is perfect. First thing that I want to share, the Canadian work experience is such a big thing. When you come here as an immigrant, it doesn't matter what you have on your resume. They do expect you to have some Canadian experience before they can employ you, which is a kind of confusing because most of the immigrants that come here are actually selected through a tedious process and the so-called skilled workers are brought here. But when you arrive, they expect you to get Canadian experience. How are we supposed to have Canadian experience from abroad? There are some people who have to keep their own professions aside. A nurse, maybe you would have to keep your nursing resume aside, look for an odd job and work in that job for a while to gain that Canadian experience. Before then, you can find work as a nurse. This does not again apply to everybody. You can't use one brush to just swipe everyone's life, okay? Because everyone is different. There are people who will come here with their PhDs, with their master's degrees, engineering degrees, and they do actually find work. If you're planning to come or you're already here, I'm not asking you to keep your engineering resume aside because I said Canadian experience is required. If you're finding difficulty in getting a job here through your profession, maybe it will be easier to first of all look for a job or do that simultaneously, okay? And whichever one comes first, you can start with it. But that is actually a thing and it stresses us a lot while we are here. It's not something that is too hard to overcome. At the same time, people who are not able to deal with that fact that they have to go back to odd jobs for a little while, sometimes they decide to leave the country. When you're coming here, be thinking of Canadian experience. Yeah, so I'm trying to get to 3,000 subscribers, guys. So if you can support me for free, that would be amazing. The second point, you might be humbled by the kind of place that you have to start life in. First of all, houses are very, very expensive these days. So unless you saved money before coming here, you will have to pay rent somewhere, or unless you have a family member or know somebody where you want to go live with. Okay, now if they have a good place, good, you're covered. But a lot of people come to Canada and they don't know anybody. So these immigrants have to struggle find a job and rent a place. And I can tell you that usually because we come here and we had not saved money before we came, the only places that we can find that are really affordable for us to live in are people's basements. Some of them are good, don't get me wrong, but I have a realtor agent has shown me a place to rent that was horrible. It was like a cubicle. You know, like it was just terrible. I was even embarrassed that they thought that I would want to go and live there. Sometimes it's bad. So that can humble you. And again, I know some of you, your parents are government officials in your countries where you're coming from, or business gurus, and you come from mansions with the expectation that when you come to Canada, you're gonna live in an island. But when you come here, stuff like that can really humble you. Instead of an island, the only thing that you'll be seeing is one tiny room in a stranger's apartment that you'll have to share. Share a bathroom, share the toilet, share the kitchen, and share everything. It's a stressful situation, and I know it's hard for some people to live with strangers that way and just share a single room in a whole house that is filled with people you don't even know. So it might stress some people and they might decide to leave. Another thing that we immigrants in Canada have to go through is just the burden from family, friends that we left behind. It's almost as if when you travel, people back home believe that you now have a money-making machine. That means that they're expecting you to sponsor all the siblings that you left behind and your cousins and your great-grandcousins. In fact, the entire family are now under your sponsorship. Some also expect you to build big houses for them. That's a reality, and that can be stressful. That actually stresses immigrants in Canada a lot, especially if I'm listing all these things that we come here and we struggle with, and yet we have all this pressure from home to send money, to take that sibling over like right now, to complete daddy's house. It's just a lot, and that does not actually make our stay here any easier. The next thing that I want to share with you that we immigrants observe, watch, see when we are here is that all that glitters is really not gold. If you're watching me and you're from Nigeria, I want to holla you. Drop a comment below, let me know. Singling you out because I know that your country is doing well. Okay, we watch your movies and we see how fancy your houses, your cars are, which is stuff that you actually own. The thing with life over here, something that you quickly notice as an immigrant is that a lot of people seem to have stuff, but it is not theirs. It's all borrowed. It's all in the credit card. It's not easy to buy a home. If you see a home that is being sold for 500,000, maybe you will be required to do a deposit of 50,000 on that house, and then the bank is going to give you a loan to borrow that house and live in it. Okay, and then you will make monthly payments until maybe 25 years when you'll be able to pay off that house. The same might apply for the car and for the Louis Vuittons that you see a lot of people abroad, including Canada, that they wear. Know that most of this stuff is not owned, it is borrowed. I'm really proud of our African superstars because I see them with cars, I see them in mansions which they actually own, compared to superstars out here who live in mansions that they do not own. That is one thing that you quickly realize when you get here. Or credit cards run the show. Card from the bank which you take, and then you use the bank's money, and then you pay interest if you don't return the money in time. And a lot of us use the card to buy whatever we want, whenever we want, even when we do not have the money. Not everybody does this. There are people who live responsibly, who have the cards but who still own what they have because they've worked hard and pay off. But a vast majority just use the credit cards. If you are over there in Niger and you are envying us, just chill, okay? You may be doing way better than us. The next thing I want to share with you is something that may humble you as an immigrant in Canada. It's actually something that can also prompt you to leave. This is actually transportation, okay? When you come over here, you quickly realize that the transport system is of course way developed. And so when you come on your new, first of all, you need to adapt to how the system is, how it runs, how the buses run, how the trains run, how the cars drive. You know, maybe in your country you drive from the left side of the car and here it's right side. There's stuff that you need to learn. So that is going to humble you. Driving humbles us, and maybe I should say just transportation in general. The regular places that you have to go to, the shops, the malls, church, your school if you are a student, your work, your friend's house, your mom's house, your uncle's house, all these places are usually not clustered in one place. Your church can be on that side of the city and your school is on the other side of the city. So you need to commute. You need to use the bus or the train, or the bus and the train, or worst case, you might need a car. The thing with a car is that you cannot just get into the car and start driving. You need to learn the rules. You need to understand how the system works, else you will cause a lot of accidents, and that starts with a driver's license. That in itself is not something that is easy or quick to do. A lot of people fail their license exams a couple more times, and it costs money. And even when you finally have the license, you can't even use one license in another province. You have to go get a new license over there. It's a little complicated. Transportation can actually humble you and add to your stress over here. Imagine if your job site, the only work that you struggle to get is like an hour away from you. Obviously you need a bus or a train, or a bus and a train, or maybe a car, and you can't just pick a cab because taxis are super expensive. Immigrants struggle a lot. This will be something that might get some people, some immigrants to choose to leave. It's not a good thing, but we do it, okay? A lot of people go through this. It takes a while, maybe a year or 2 or 3, but finally you get your car, because even the car itself is not cheap. Otherwise, again, like I said, you still have the bus and the train system, which by the way is very slow and not very swift. We get to deal with it as it is. The next thing that I want to share with you when you are an immigrant here is that you realize there are rights in Canada. It is a good thing, and I don't think that anyone plans to leave Canada or leaves Canada for this reason. If you come from maybe some countries where people's rights are not respected, know that as an immigrant here, even though you are an immigrant, your rights are going to be respected. There are laws, and someone can actually have consequences for violating those laws and your rights, which might not be the case for other countries that we come from. The next thing that you observe and you live as an immigrant is that you can have a political opinion. I am not into politics. Anyone who is interested in politics, protest the way you're supposed to protest, and you will not be arrested. Unlike a lot of places where we may or may have not come from, where having a political opinion, especially in the public, is a risk to you and maybe your family members. So that's one thing you realize when you come here as an immigrant. You have rights, and when it comes to politics, you also have rights. When you qualify, you can vote like any other person, and this is actually something that is good. So I don't think that people will leave the country for this purpose, although some people sometimes they have a difference in opinion with what is happening with the government or policies, and they choose to leave. The next thing I want to share with you that we immigrants go through here is that work life is generally different. If you're coming from some other countries where, sign a contract to do whatever the boss says. This means that if your boss says leap, you leap. If they say jump, you jump. If they call you at 7 p.m. to come to work, you have to come to work. If you fall sick, you cannot stay home. You have to come to work, because God forbid, when you come here, you will realize that when you have work, the system is different. You're going to have a contract. On that contract, they're going to specify what time you start work, what time you end work, and you are obliged to stick to that. During those hours, there's going to be time for your break time, an hour or an hour 30 minutes or whatever is decided. Once you sign off on that, you have to stick to that. Your recruiter respects you, and you have to respect them and stick to the terms of the contract. If they say in the contract, for example, you cannot just wake up one day and stop work, you have to give the company a 2 weeks notice. That is what you should do, because if you don't do that, there are different ways that they can get you to pay for not following the rules, especially if there are rules that you abided to. So you can't be here at work and just answering phone calls anyhow and shouting at work anyhow, talking to their bestie at work, gisting, and then dashing out of work anytime you wish. Work is for work. If you're supposed to work 7 hours a day, they expect you to work 7 hours a day. And at the same time, when your time to close is done, they want you to leave. They want you to have a life-work balance such that you do work when you're supposed to work, and when you're not supposed to work, you close work and go home. So far as at the end of the day you're doing your job right, you will not have any issue with anybody. They come, they do their own stuff and leave. So far as you're doing your own stuff, nobody is bothering you. The work life is different. So if you're coming from a laissez-faire system where you think you can just, especially now with remote work, go look for 2 different jobs, and now they're seeing that your productivity is not matching up, because they can tell, okay, they have ways to tell whether you're doing your work right or wrong. They don't necessarily have to be pulling up and checking up on you. Like, this is actually kind of a good thing, because work is hard, but it's way easier because nobody is threatening you, which might not be the case for other countries that you live in or that we come from. You quickly realize that health is a huge thing. People are aware of the health. The government is health conscious. Only a very few people will be sick and will not care enough to not contaminate other people. Majority of people care about their health. When it comes to work, for example, if you have a flu, you are not expected to go to work. Why? Because if you go to work, you're going to end up contaminating other workers, and at the end of the day, the whole company may be down because you showed up at work with a flu. This might not be the case where you are, where nobody cares so far as you are obliged to show up at work. By the way, there are sick days over here just for things like that, so that if you had a flu, so if you wake up and you had a cough, if your child was sick, you can actually stay at home and take care of your health, because they do believe that without health you can't do your work right. So it's better to take some days off, take care of the health, and then come back and be productive at work. This is not a bad thing that will make people to leave, something that you experience as an immigrant in the country. The importance of health for everyone, for you to take care of your own self and to watch out for the health of others. These are the things that I wanted to share with you in this video, just to highlight what it is being an immigrant in Canada. And as I've explained, some of the things are good things, some of the things are bad things that actually make people to leave. No country is better than the other. If you want to come here, come. If you want to leave, leave. At the end of the day, you're going to choose here what you like, you're going to choose elsewhere what you like there or what you dislike there. At the end of the day, you make home where you want home to be, because again, nowhere is perfect. I mean, we ourselves, we are not perfect. And I also think that if everything was all perfect where we were before, why would we have to immigrate? There's always a reason to immigrate, and I think that all of us, we make that decision. We see that there's something a little more better somewhere else, but it's our decision to make, and our experiences are different. Okay, what I may like, you may not like. I may not like something and still decide to accommodate it. That's just how life is. Now, are there people who come here and they do great? Sure. Are there people who come here and they're like, I cannot survive here? Yes. But do not let anyone dictate what that is for you. You have to come here if you can and have your own experience for yourself. Make the decisions for yourself. So if you've watched up to here, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. If you found value, most importantly, can you support me for free? I'm going to put on the screen here before I go a playlist that has everything that I've ever posted on my channel on Canada. Reasons why people are leaving Canada. That video is doing so well. The very good reasons why people move here. Those are things that you also have to watch. Check out those videos, check out the playlist, and let me know in the comments and through your likes and your subscriptions, if you love content like this. I post videos on this channel weekly, 3 times a week sometimes, so I'm looking forward to seeing you here again. Okay, now if you enjoyed the video, like I said, hit a like, drop your comment below, subscribe for free. So I'll end the video here. I hope to see you back here very soon.